Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? Folks, today is Wednesday, January 28th, 2026. Coming up on Roland Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. Donald Trump is still mad he lost to Joe Biden. His FBI launched a search warrant today of a Fulton County, Georgia election center, trying to find evidence desperately to support his false claim that he won the election. Sorry, dude, you didn't. In North Carolina, Republicans have reduced the number of voting sites at the nation's largest HBCU, prompting North Carolina A&T students to file a lawsuit. In Virginia, a judge has blocked lawmakers' pro-democratic voting map will also bring you the results of a new poll revealing what issues matter most to Virginians, including that redistricting map. It seems that local and state police agencies are on a collision course with ICE agents. The president of the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives will explain the complexities of this power struggle. New York Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez calls out insurance companies, including CVS Health's corporate strategy to monopolize patient care. And a white city councilman in Florida is facing backlash for how he addressed white supremacy. Many people focused on his choice of words in the example, but overlooked his core message, prompting calls for his resignation. Folks, it's time to bring the funk on Roland Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin.
Donald Trump cannot get over the fact that he lost the 2020 presidential election. He has lied and lied again. Well, today in Fulton County, Georgia, the FBI executed a court-authorized search warrant at the Fulton County Elections Office just outside of Atlanta. An anonymous law enforcement official says agents were searching for computers and ballots as part of an election interference investigation tied to the 2020 election. The action comes as Trump continues to claim his 2020 loss was due to widespread voter fraud. You know, the claims that courts and election officials have continuously denied. The search follows a rapid shift at the FBI under Trump-appointed Director Kash Patel, who is working alongside the Justice Department on investigations aligned with Donald Trump's political priorities. Now, remember, after he lost, what did Donald Trump do? He attacked four places. He kept attacking Fulton County. He attacked Philadelphia. He attacked Detroit. He attacked Milwaukee. What do they have in common? Black people. They had a partial recount in Wisconsin. Oh, only in Milwaukee. Now remember, Rudy Giuliani attacked two black poll workers in Fulton County. They got a massive judgment against him because of his lies. Now, Trump should be on trial for election interference, but the actions Fulton County DA Fonnie Willis screwed that up when it came to having her boyfriend working on the case, and that blew it up. And now those charges were completely dismissed. And this is where we are right now. But again, what's important to understand is this is Donald Trump using the Department of Justice to exact revenge. This is who he is. But we told you that. We told you they were going to do this. And too many people decided to stay at home. You had a lot of black men who actually voted for the thug in chief. That's exactly who he is. He simply cannot accept the fact that he lost. He is a sore loser. That's what he is. Talk about with my panel, Cody D, independent journalist out of Birmingham, Jelana Jones, Texas State Representative and lawyer out of Houston, Dr. Terry Ann Scott, director of the Institute for Common Power, author of Lynching and Leisure, Race and the Transformation of Mob Violence in Texas, joining us out of Phoenix. This right here, matter of fact, Terry, I'm just going to call it what it is. This is mob violence. What you have here is a mob leader, Donald Trump, who is using law enforcement to do his bidding. He continually lied about what took place in the 2020 election. That's what January 6th was all about as well. And so he can't let go of it because he's a sore loser. He got his ass whooped and he cannot accept that fact.
Right. I'm always careful to equate things that are happening with mob violence as associated with lynching. I mean, there are other ways that we can look at that. I'm writing an article currently about the ways that ICE is murdering people on the street is actually can be defined as a lynching. But in terms of what's happening in Georgia and with Donald Trump doing this, what we are watching are the actions of, let's call it, a textbook narcissist individual when it coincides with a level of racism where he can't stand having lost any of these votes in particularly Black areas or Black run cities. And so now he's on the defensive. And what is the reasoning behind this? I mean, Georgia has, since that 2020 election, passed additional restrictive voting laws that make it even more challenging for people who live in predominantly Black areas to cast a vote because they're waiting in lines for 6 to 13 hours. But none of that matters. He wants to shore this up and demonstrate to feed his own will that he won. The problem is that he employs agents of his terror. And so he has people like the FBI and others who are in his pocket to do his bidding. And it's dangerous, but there is a light at the end of the tunnel. The way that we find ourselves out of that is to cast that vote. Like you said, Roland, too many people stayed home. Our vote matters so much that they go to every length they can to try to remove it from us.
The thing here, Jolanda, is he's lied over and over and over again. I mean, numerous courts have said, no voter fraud. But the cult that he leads, they still believe that. And that's what you see right here. These folks, listen, and the reason I'm going to say, the reason I will use the actions, let's keep in mind, who was his best friend? Who was his leader, the man who taught him that it's important to lie and lie and lie again? Oh, wasn't he also a lawyer for the mob? We know exactly who that was. This man is a thug. He is a thug. And what he wants to do, he is using law enforcement to attack people, to exact revenge. And it's not going to stop. And then we tried to warn people this was going to happen. But, oh, no. We got through the first time, the second time. No, this is totally different. And so I don't know what trumped up, no pun intended, charters they came up with to execute this warrant. But then again, you got so many Trump-aligned judges that it's easy to get a judge to sign off on this.
Well, so I agree with you, but it absolutely concerns me, Roland, because in order to get a search warrant, people can't just go like, I think somebody did something, I don't like them, let me go get a search warrant. That's not how it works. The Constitution requires probable cause where the police must actually put real facts, right? It's got to be under oath. It's got to be precise with particularity. And then it's got to come from a neutral judge, which your introduction of the question showed us that all those things didn't exist. So my larger concern is that Trump is dismantling the Constitution. And the only thing that gave Black people and that give Black people and indigenous people and immigrant people and women people and every other disadvantaged people is the Constitution. And, you know, when cops go rogue, the people that are generally in the targets are us, Black people, overwhelmingly. So I've got serious concern that Trump, however many years later, was it 6 years later, is still whining about losing and is still trying to justify himself. And the thing that's more scary to me, Roland, is that the people that follow him, no matter what, give him a pass. And so I absolutely agree with you that it is a modern day lynching. It is a lynching of our civil rights. It is a lynching of the Constitution. It is a lynching of our lives. All you have to do is go to Minneapolis and to all the other people. And so it is, figuratively speaking, and in some instances, literally speaking, he is lynching us. And the question is, when are we going to stop him? Like, when are we going to have courage? When is law enforcement going to start standing up? And when are we going to stop letting him get his way? And it starts in Congress. And we need to vote them out of office come the midterms, because it is obvious to me that none of them have had their nuts dropped. Not one of them. Everybody's scared on the Republican side. And so we need some grown people to do what it is they need to do to stop him, because, again, he is literally and figuratively lynching us.
Cody, I want to remind folks that today is Wednesday. This is what took place on Friday. A federal judge tossed out the Department of Justice's lawsuit seeking the voter data of Georgia. The Trump administration, they have been targeting states, demanding they turn over their voter data. I am not shocked to see this action happen today after that Friday decision.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, first of all, I just want to say it's been 5 years or over 5 years since the 2020 election, and Trump is still trying to make a larger point here. My concern is that he is using Fulton County as an example of what he is planning to do in all municipalities, whether it be local or federal. And so my question always is, with anything that Trump does, is why is this still happening? Why are we still talking about this? It's been several years. And so, I just want this to be a reminder, as you mentioned earlier, Roland, that yes, we warned people. We told people about Project 2025. We told people that this was what was going to happen, that he was going to create a witch hunt against people who are his enemies. And that's essentially what he is continuing to do, is to create a witch hunt and to use Fulton County and Fannie Willis as an example of anybody who chooses to go against him, even if it is illegal. Because as we know, the results of the 2020 election, it has been found, they have already investigated the election several times, and it has been shown that Biden won fair out square. There's nothing that Trump could have won here. So, I'm just more so concerned about what this is going to set in terms of a precedent across all municipalities.
But see, here's the thing that I think is important to remind people. Republicans controlled the state in 2020. Republicans control the governor's mansion. They still do. Republicans control the Secretary of State's office. They still do. And you've had Brad Raffensperger. You've had Brian Kemp, the governor. They've all said, no, the elections in Georgia were fair and square. And this is the thing that I got to also remind people about. Terry Ann, other Republicans won in the same election. So isn't it amazing? Isn't it amazing to watch this idiot go, oh my God, there was massive voter fraud. The Republican Senate candidates, right. I don't hear them claiming fraud in their races in Georgia. Matter of fact, I don't recall any Republican who won in America in 2020 go, hey, there was fraud in my race. So what Donald Trump is saying is there was fraud only in the presidential race, but no other statewide race, state rep, state senate, congressional race, just him.
And people who engage in critical thinking think just like you are. But what this administration relies on is for people to not engage in critical thinking, and they have been very successful in doing so. They have been very successful in capitalizing on the cognitive dissonance of those who follow them, who, when they shake something shiny over here and say, look over here, don't look over here, believe what we're telling you and not your eyes. It's the same reason why the footage that we see of the murders on the streets, people can interpret it in such a wrong way because the administration tells them to. And so what my fear is, and my concern, I'm not going to say fear because we're going to eliminate any fear because we have to win in 2026. My concern is that he and this administration are laying a seed. We've seen this all along. It is not about the immediate looking for those 11,000 votes that he still thinks he's supposed to have in Georgia. It's about creating a narrative of distrust so that when he does whatever he does ahead of the midterm elections, he can say, see, for months, we've been pointing to continuing fraud. And so if I need to throw out these election results or do whatever I have to do, you know that we've been investigating this and I have laid these seeds of distrust in your mind. And so you need to believe me when I shake this thing over here.
Again, they were just the right wing, just so excited to see what took place today. This was some video here of them with this sealed warrant. Jelana, you made the point about needing some evidence. And again, I'm just going to be honest with you. There's nothing about MAGA I trust. Nothing. There's nothing about MAGA I trust. Listen, these people have continually lied to federal judges as it relates to what's happening with ICE. These people will lie. They will have they've had prosecutors go to court and lie to the court. And then when they got busted, well, not quite sure. So there is nothing that I trust from the Trump Department of Justice when it comes to any warrants, any search warrants.
I mean, the Constitution, as I said before, and I'm going to keep saying this, the Constitution does not matter to Trump. And yes, the police will die. And yes, crooked DAs will lie. And yeah, sycophant judges will lie. I mean, they just had a judge get kicked or have to vacate her seat because she called black people, you know what, and whatever. I will say this. I absolutely believe that Trump will only use his power in cities that have black people and Hispanic people. That's it. That's why he ain't using it all around this country. He's using it to disenfranchise black people. It's real easy to target us. People seem not to care whenever the government kills us like they kill us, and it's government-sanctioned murder, and he's going to keep on going. And the truth is, Trump benefits from his dismantling of public education because the statistics show that people who are dumber than boxes of rocks tend to support Trump. They don't have the ability to critically think because they don't know. They literally want somebody to tell them where to go. He's the shepherd, they're the sheep. That's exactly who follows him. So he literally will convince people that their eyes are lying to them. Mm-hmm. So it's a problem. And I believe that we need to be terrified of what's going on. And that's why I believe Republicans have been successful in these elections, because they have scared the shit out of their followers. And let me tell you, there's inspiration motivates people to go vote, but fear, damn sure, motivates people to go vote. And so we as black people better be real scared because it can get worse. And although people said we survived the first Trump presidency, y'all, we as a country, we as a people are not going to survive the second Trump presidency if we don't get out and we don't vote. Because just like they killed that white man and they killed that white woman in Minneapolis, and the people are like, oh, you know, that was really bad. Why'd they shoot him in the face? Let me be clear. I firmly believe that there will not be very many more killings of white people because other people have come up in arms. And once they go back to just killing black people or brown people, ain't nobody gonna worry. And it's a sad thing to say. And the only way that we have control in this is for us to vote like we've never voted before, come to midterms, and at least get a house that will block his shit.
Yeah.
This is Fulton County Commissioner Dana Barrett. So these MAGA folks, these MAGA conspiracy theorists were out in full force. You know, they were loving what happened today. One of them posted this. She's also running for Secretary of State, and she had a few words to say to the nutcases.
What you're doing is extremely dangerous.
Why is it dangerous?
Because you're spreading conspiracy theories.
It's not a conspiracy theory. You have $45. I'm not undermining. I'm not saying people are voting there. Ma'am, I'm not saying that people are voting there. I'm not saying people are voting there. I'm saying people are currently registered to vote there. We went around Fulton County the last few weeks, and we see that people are currently registered to vote in places like empty lots, homeless shelters that closed 10 years ago. What would you do if you become Secretary of State to address that?
I'm not going to reply to conspiracy theories.
It's not conspiracy. It's a current. You can currently go on the voter rolls, purchase them for $45, and go there with us. We will gladly take you if you want to go to. I
appreciate what you're saying. I'm not going to respond to conspiracy theories.
How is that a conspiracy theory? It's an act of voter rolls. If you're going to be running for Secretary of State, you're in charge of maintaining the voter rolls. Don't you care about if people are registered to vote from empty lots?
Questions. I appreciate it. I've got to.
Do you think it's a conspiracy theory that people are registered to vote from empty lots, though? Well, I have the ability to go wherever I want to.
That's exactly how
people are currently
to deal with these fools. Also, I'm going to play this here. Fulton County Commissioner Mo Ivory. She also posted a video on social media. So let me go ahead and cue that up. So here we go.
Hi, everybody. Listen, I know you're watching the news. You're seeing a lot of stuff about this FBI raid at the Fulton County elections and registrations. I'm on the inside right now. So I just want you to be like real discerning about all that you're hearing from people who are on the outside of what's going on. I'm going to give you the truth about what's happening. So they served a warrant, the FBI, this is Trump, serving a warrant to go pick up the 2020 ballots, which are in a secure location inside of here, 700 boxes. Wow. The first warrant that they gave was incorrect legally, like they didn't follow the right procedure. They went back and they fixed it, and they came back, and now they are actually collecting the boxes. They are in the chain of command in Fulton County is that once they are archived, they become the possession of the clerk of Superior Court, which is Shay Alexander. She is here and she is with them inventorying everything that they're taking. We, the commissioners, the chairman, the county attorney, are trying to figure out a legal plan as to maybe an injunction, a motion to quash. We don't know yet. We're trying to figure it out. We're getting all kinds of legal advice to stop this, because once they have the ballots, how do we then turn around and do something different when they've already got their hands on it? So this is an attempt to take your vote away. This is all about November 2026, about the primary on May 19th and then the November election. He does not want the midterm elections to take away his power. So he's trying to create chaos. So this is what he does. Chaos in Minnesota, chaos in Fulton County. We are a target. Protect your vote at all costs. I'm telling you, everybody always says your life depends on it. Oh, your life does depend on it this time.
Cody, I'll start with you. Your reaction to those two commissioners.
Well, first of all, thank you for playing that clip, because one of my own questions was, what can the federal powers that, I mean, not the federal, but the local powers that be, what can they do to override the things that the FBI is doing when they are actively executing this warrant? I also want to take this as a moment to remind people that Trump is using our taxpayer dollars to get back at the people that he feel like are his enemies, even though the Georgia election has already been verified. And as the woman in the video that you just played, as she mentioned, our lives do depend on our votes. And as you mentioned earlier, Roland, we told people this was possibly going to happen during the 2024 election cycle, that if Trump was reelected, that this is exactly what was going to happen, that he was going to go after his enemies. Kamala Harris said it, that he was going to go after his enemies and he was going to make an example of those people. And that is what we are seeing in Minnesota. And that is also what we are seeing in Fulton County. This is the opportunity for people to wake up and, first of all, make sure that they are registered to vote. Make sure that your registration is up to date. If you have moved, if you need to maybe go and get your new ID, your STAR ID. I've been telling people to go ahead and make sure they get their STAR ID. Be prepared to go vote and fight against this authoritarian regime that is happening with Trump. Because all of what he is doing in Fulton County right now is just making an example of the county. He knows that he lost that election. That's not, why are we having this conversation several years later? Only so that he can make an example of his enemies. That's all that's happening here. And he's wasting our taxpayer dollars in the process of doing so.
Terry Ann, your reaction to those two commissioners.
So the latter commissioner said essentially what I was saying previously. This is not about this particular moment. This is about sowing a level of discord and distrust previous to the midterms in the fall of this year. And as she added, previous to the primary elections too. The intention is to try to villainize the quote unquote other. Right. And so in this case, in the administration's case, in the case of America, the other is black and brown. And in the immediate case, it is black. And so if he can rally the MAGA troops against Black voters and go to these Black areas and say that they are doing things incorrectly, then he is able to institute whatever he needs to do. I wouldn't be surprised if it was not short of canceling elections. We see a dictator who is in motion, and so many people who are supporting him and allowing themselves to be used by him, like Kash Patel and so many others. And so we need to very much pay attention to it, not dismiss it. The people who say, I don't pay attention to politics, this is not about politics anymore. This is about morality. This is about our lives. This is about our future. And so to reiterate what Cody is saying, it is now time to check our own voting status. And not only our voting status, I mean, my organization, the Institute for Common Power, we are, the parent organization is Common Power. We mobilize volunteers, non-paid volunteers, to go out there, knock on doors, and get people to go to the polls or to register to vote. And so I urge everybody out there to not only think about your own vote and make sure that everything is okay, have the difficult conversations with people. Make sure your kids and your grandkids and your nieces and nephews, they are registered to vote. They need to understand what is at stake in this particular moment.
And Yolanda, your reaction to what those two commissioners said.
My reaction is manyfold. My first reaction is, as a trial lawyer, chain of custody is really, really, really important with documents. My concern is that they will take those 700 boxes. They can do anything to them. They can change them. So the first thing I think that Fulton County needs to do is make sure that they make copies, to the extent they can't stop it in court. They make copies of the originals of the documents, period, point blank. Because once they get that in their control, I already know Trump's people are going to lie about what was there, and there's no way to prove it. So hopefully they have it on microfiche or something, but they need to get the copies, not the documents. The second thing that comes to my mind is that with what Trump is doing and the people that are doing it for him, those people aren't allowing themselves to be used by Trump. Those people want to be used by Trump. They want to be his tools because they want the power that comes with that. And so we have people that are complicit, absolutely complicit. People are standing in line to go be a person who does evil stuff that he has them doing. The next thing I will say is I'm thankful that Fulton County is putting out the proper narrative about what's actually going on so that people with reasonable minds who have the ability to critically think actually know what's going on. Because if we follow Trump's narrative, I mean, they were saying that Alex Preddy pulled his gun and all these things, which we saw on the video that he was not. So we need somebody telling us what's actually going on so that we have a counter narrative. That's very, very, very important, which happens to be the truth. But I will say this, Trump will keep distracting from what he is actually doing. And yes, our constitutional rights are at stake. All of our rights are at stake. But at the very core of this is Trump is literally killing us. His policies are killing us. His police are killing us. They are killing us. So when they say vote like your life depends on it, if you don't value your life enough, then vote like your children's lives and your great-grandchildren and your grandchildren's lives depend on it, because it's the truth.
All right, folks, hold tight 1 second. I got to go to break. We'll be right back. Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
Hey y'all, welcome to The Other Side of Change, only on the Black Star Network and hosted by myself, Bria Baker, and my good sis, Jamira Burley. We are just two millennial women tackling everything at the intersection of politics, gender, and pop culture.
And we don't just settle for commentary. This is about solution-driven dialogue to get us to the world as it could be and not just as it is.
Watch us on the Black Star Network, so tune in to The Other Side of Change.
Violent white supremacy is, quote, the most persistent and lethal threat in the homeland.
The greatest terrorist threat to the homeland is the homegrown violence stream, including hate crime committed on behalf of some kind of white supremacist ideology.
They are coming after everything in Black America. MAGA and Donald Trump are specifically targeting Black America.
They are going after the money. Attack Black Lives Matter.
attack critical race theory, attack woke, DEI. MAGA wants to defund Black America. This is a perfect example of their desire to completely degrade and de-emphasize Black people.
What's up? It's your girl, Tamika D. Mallory, and you are watching the Black Star Network.
All right, folks, let's go to North Carolina, where a group of students from North Carolina A&T are suing the state after voting sites were cut at several universities, including one of the largest on their campus. On Tuesday, the students filed a lawsuit against Republican state officials demanding the restoration of early voting sites at 3 college campuses: Western Carolina University, the University of North Carolina at Greensboro, and North Carolina A&T University. The lawsuit claims that the removal of voting sites at these institutions violates the U.S. Constitution. This action is part of a broader strategy by the Republican-run state election board to limit student voter participation ahead of North Carolina's March primary election. Students argue that the removal of these voting sites infringes upon their First and 14th Amendment rights. They contend that students without access to private transportation will now have to walk long distances, often along highways that are not pedestrian-friendly, to exercise their right to vote. Additionally, the Republican board's decision restricts access to same-day registration because students now face long commutes, and same-day registration is only available during early voting. This change could affect approximately 40,000 students across all 3 colleges, including thousands of Black students. Voting experts warn that long travel distances and limited transportation options to polling locations present significant barriers to voter participation. Also, keep in mind, Republicans in North Carolina did. They actually are afraid of the voting power of North Carolina A&T. So A&T used to encompass 1 congressional district. They actually then split A&T. They literally split the campuses into 2 congressional districts. This is the nefarious stuff Republicans are doing all across the country because they are afraid of the youth vote and they're afraid of the Black vote. Jolanda, this is par for the course for Republicans nationwide.
Oh, it absolutely is. And boy, do I know about that with the redistricting that happened in Texas, where it's what you call cracking districts. So rather than having the North Carolina A&T vote concentrated, they split it into 2 other districts, which I'm certain have less Black population, so that Black people's votes can be diluted. So absolutely, it's a problem. And as a college student who did not have transportation, who had to catch the metro, and I know you know about the metro, Roland, because you're from Houston, it's very hard to get around. And so they are disenfranchising the students, and I'm extremely excited to see the students fight back. I'm just excited. Now, I don't know how the judges and how the courts look there. I don't know if they're mostly Republican, because I believe that if they're mostly Republican, that they're going to lose. And if locally the judges are Democratic, what could very well end up happening is like what happened here. The Democratic judges at the levels will throw out what the Republicans have done. But if it gets to the Supreme Court and the Supreme Court is Republican, they'll just reverse it and let it stand, because the Republicans don't care about the Constitution. They don't care about stare decisis, which is basically the law is what the law is what that means legally. And so I'm hopeful to look at this, but this is very close. I mean, it's about to be February. The primaries are in March, so they've got a very short window. So I'm hopeful that they get their right to vote back, but it is scaring me.
Mm-hmm. Can't hear you, Roland.
I just want folks to understand, we were there 7 years ago covering a voting march. And so the same thing happened. So what they did was these students, the voting location was 2 miles from campus. And so they did a march to polls on this particular day. With, as you see right there, like I say, we were there. I was out there interviewing students, talking to them. And that's what they want, because Cody, what their goal is, if they can decrease the number of students voting, then that impacts the election. Their whole goal is to shave as many people off as they possibly can. That is what their strategy is.
Yeah, you can't tell me that when you remove a voting site from not just one of the largest HBCUs in the state, but just one of the largest colleges in that state, that is not intentional and it's not a try of voter suppression. The state is also creating a barrier for young students who are already facing transportation and access challenges. The first time that I voted was on my HBCU campus of Stillman College my freshman year. I did not have a car. My parents were telling me, Cody, you're not gonna have a car your freshman year. And so I could only imagine that if my voting site was not on my college campus that freshman year, along with me not having a car, how would I have been able to vote that year? I may have been able to catch a ride, but that's not guaranteed. So you're creating more challenges and barriers for Black students already having a lot of the systemic barriers and issues that exist for Black college students in comparison to their white peers. And so it doesn't need to be understated, the additional barriers that the state of North Carolina is already presenting there. And voting should meet people where they are. I think that a lot of times we forget because of the voter suppression that we've seen over the years, and we've seen the way that the Trump administration has been trying to attack different municipalities across the country and taking away their voter access, that voting historically has tried to meet people where they are, the voting locations. And so having to force college students to navigate highways and having to pay for additional transportation just so that they can vote, it just challenges the democracy that's already being questioned in our nation.
Terry Ann?
So I want to place a little bit of historical context around this so we understand what's happening here, why it's happening, and really what we can do about it. In 1965, when the Voting Rights Act was signed into law, it decidedly said that for any district or state that had a history of voter discrimination, they had to go to the Department of Justice if they wanted to make any changes, cut early voting, extend early voting, anything. They had to get pre-clearance from the Department of Justice. And that wasn't just the South. Those were districts in New York and California and other places. In 2013, a Supreme Court ruling, Shelby versus Holder, that was 5-4 with Republican justices in the majority. They said, you know what? Essentially, there's no more voter discrimination. We don't need pre-clearance. Within hours of that ruling, not months, within hours, states started to pass restrictive measures. And many of those restrictive measures are what we call facially neutral laws. So in the law, it's non-discriminatory. But in the application of the law and the outcome, it's discriminatory. And so the GOP election board in North Carolina can argue, we didn't do anything wrong. We just cut early voting and we changed some of the voting polls. It's non-discriminatory in the language of the law, but it is 100% discriminatory with an intention to discriminate in the way that it is applied. That is why we need a new Voting Rights Act. We need the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, and that is not going to pass when Congress is majority Republican. But with the midterm elections, if we can return a majority Democrats to the House of Representatives, to the Senate, then we have a chance of reinstituting part of that 1965 Voting Rights Act that has been cut so we can prevent things from happening that are happening in North Carolina.
Well, and what you also understand what happens there in North Carolina. I'm going to go back to 2018. When Democrats controlled the Supreme Court. You had a situation where the state Supreme Court, Democrats could have elected the Chief Justice there, African-American woman. They would have had a 6-1 majority of the state Supreme Court. She lost by 401 votes. The white male Republican who she lost to was angry that he was not made Chief Justice, so he ran against her. Republican won his seat. Democrats then had a 4-3 majority. The next election was a black male Democrat. He chose to run for a higher office, lost. Democrat then of course Republicans won the Supreme Court. Then they expanded their lead on the Supreme Court. Now they have a 5-2 majority. That state Supreme Court, now run by Republicans, is letting the Republican legislature do whatever the hell is they want to do. That's why they fought this last election. They fought bitterly against a white female Democrat. She won re-election. Now it's 5-2. Trust me, next year, and not next year, sorry, in November, they are going after the black woman, the only African American left on that court. They want to take her out. They tried to actually, throw her out because she gave her opinion on diversity in the court system. That's how crazy these people are. Now, why is this important? There are 3 of those seats. So let's say she wins. It's Anita Earls. 3 of those seats are on the ballot in 2028. Okay, so Democrats have the opportunity to take back the court. Why is that important? Well, because the state Supreme Court could block a lot of these actions by the Republican legislature, like they did before. And here's how dastardly they are. So they lost this year. They lost the governor's race, lieutenant governor's race. They lost the attorney general's race. And so what they did was they then stripped, normally the overseeing of the election boards falls under the Secretary of State. They took the power away from the Secretary of State and put it under the state auditor, who was Republican, the state auditor. And so that's what you have happening here. This is the type of stuff, Jolanda, Republicans do. They will take their power and they will do whatever the hell is they want to do. And they don't give a damn if you got anything to say about it. And this is exactly what happened. North Carolina Republicans have done some of the most evil things when it comes to voting in the past 2 decades. And remember, it was a federal court that ruled that there was a laser-like targeting of black voters during early voting by the Republican legislature. That's what they're dealing with there in North Carolina.
Everything is laser-like when it comes to the Republicans, and the laser is pointed at us. Roland, we know this. Hell, I've been black all my life. You've been black all your life. And to think otherwise is lunacy, is the first thing I'll say. I think you were very nice when you used the word dastardly, because I can think of other adjectives to describe the Republicans. But let me say this, that every time the Republicans stoop even lower, we as Democrats want to do better, want to be better, don't want to fight fire with fire. We want to do things the right way. Let me be clear. I'm from these streets, okay? And you cannot follow rules when the people that you are fighting against don't follow any rules. So just like they moved whoever was over the voting from the Secretary of State, I think you said the Secretary of State, to somewhere else, we need to do that. Democrats need to learn from Republicans how to make sure we make sure the field is fair to us. Because if we continue to go by what it used to be, we're going to lose everything. And trust and believe, they don't care if they have an entirely Republican Supreme Court. That is what they want. They do not want a fight. Just like that ICE officer said, I don't know whether it was today or yesterday, that if you raise your voice, he's going to take your voice. They literally telling us what they're going to do. So we better try to bow up. We better try to fight back. And we better figure out ways to beat them, because they are winning at the figure out how to destroy black people. So we better start thinking guerrilla warfare, true story. And it's terrifying to me, because I never thought that I'd live in a country where like the rules didn't matter. But at the end of the day, we better figure it out. Otherwise, we will not be able to regain control of this country at all. North Carolina or anywhere.
This is from the News and Observer right here. The state board's Republicans, who outnumber Democrats 3-2, agreed with local Republican election officials from each county who argued that the campus sites were not practical due to cost, parking, or geography. First of all, that's hilarious, because you got way more parking on a college campus than you do at some of these early voting sites. The vote prompted a brief protest of North Carolina A&T students who had come to the Raleigh meeting in support of early voting sites on the campus of the HBCU. Now, after students confronted board members with signs, board chair Francis DeLuca threatened to call the police on them. And this is a photo here of the students protesting. Now check this out. Now, remember what I said. They restructured the state of North Carolina State and Local Elections Board. We flipped to Republican control. Now, so it says right here, for most of the state's history, the governor was able to appoint a majority of election officials from their own party. Republican lawmakers stripped Democratic Governor Josh Stein of that power shortly after he was elected, transferring that power instead to Republican State Auditor David Bollig. Now it says, in addition to voting against some campus voting sites, the newly composed boards have also reduced Sunday voting statewide up souls to the polls, even as they've increased the total number of early voting sites. And so that's what you're dealing with there, and that's how Republicans operate in North Carolina. And so on the ballot this year, first of all, Republicans have already gerrymandered the state, carving out, flipping the seat of Democrat Don Davis, member of the CBC, to a Republican majority. So we'll see what happens there. And of course, you also have Roy Cooper, the former governor of North Carolina, who's now running for the United States Senate. So I have been saying, and I spent time in North Carolina in 2024, in 2022. I was there in 2018 as well, and was critically important. And I've been saying this for Black folks, is we must look at North Carolina and recognize what needs to happen there. And again, with all the Democratic success last year, the state didn't vote for Kamala Harris. They voted for Donald Trump. And so what I have been saying to preachers, I've been saying this to D9, I've been saying this to a lot of folks, that North Carolina to me is one of my top 3 states to focus on this year. And because when you understand the importance of that state when it comes to the election. And so that's one of the things. So I've been saying North Carolina, Georgia, and Ohio in terms of top 3 when you look at the concentration of Black votes. I have Texas 4th, primarily because of the Republican concentration. We'll see what happens in that March 3rd primary. And the thing why North Carolina is so important is if you look at the state of North Carolina, and a lot of people, and this is a problem that Democrats have, what they do is they spend a total amount of time on Western North Carolina. So if you look at this map, and if you actually, so you see where the red north begins. If you decide to sit here and run a line straight down from that, what you will recognize is that that is the most important thing right there. And so in terms of East North Carolina, focusing on East, because that's where so many of your rich Black votes are. It's called the Black Belt in North Carolina. And Cody, the problem that we keep seeing, and then Kamala Harris did this year, and her campaign was wrong for it. They went to Greenville, East North Carolina one time. What Black folks should be focusing on is mobilizing the Black vote in East North Carolina. You do that, you can win across the state.
Yeah. Well, first, let me give a shout out to the students at North Carolina A&T. I love seeing HBCU students stand up for their rights and making sure that they're not being suppressed when it comes to exercising their right to vote. But you're correct, Roland. Democrats have had a problem with making sure that they go to the places where their people, their constituents actually are. I think so many times the party has focused on trying to reach across the aisle or reach the people who will never vote for them. Mm-hmm. Focus on your base, focus on the people who want to vote for you, but listen to their concerns, listen to the things that they actually have issues with today. And so, again, I agree with you, Roland, in terms of making sure that not only in North Carolina and all the battleground states that you mentioned as far as Georgia, Ohio, Texas, but even here in Alabama, we have a potentially contentious race that's coming up, and I'm having the same conversations with Democrats here, and I'm saying, hey, make sure that you are actually listening to your constituents and making sure that they are getting out of the house to go vote, because as the other ladies on this panel have said, our lives depend on the midterm elections in November. And so these upcoming primary elections that are coming up in the next few months, and also the election in November, we need to make sure that people are informed and educated as to the things that are going on, not just in their local government, but also statewide, so that they show up and go vote.
But see, here's the thing here, and this is why I just really want people to understand what I'm trying to convey when we start talking about these maps. And let me be clear. When I say what we have to do in North Carolina, I am not saying we in terms of Democrats. I'm saying we in terms of Black people. Now, let me be real clear. And we say this all the time on this show. And that is when we talk about politics, the parties are a delivery system. You say it again. The parties are a delivery system. And so what we have to decide is, okay, what is the delivery system to get what it is that we desire? And when you look at the issues that we're talking about, when you look at these things, what we're talking about here are really, we know it ain't gonna happen. It ain't gonna happen from the Republican side. But we have to look at this in terms of, all right, if it's Democratic Party, I want us mobilizing and organizing. What I've been calling on, Terry Ann, is for Black organizations, not waiting on a party. Black preachers, Black churches, D9, Prince Hall Mason, Eastern Star, saying, how are these organizations going to use their collective power to be able to educate, enlighten, inform, then register, and then drive them to the ballot box? I'm not interested in waiting on a party. I need us to be doing this ourselves, because the actions of those in power then impact us. And remember, and let's be clear, Tom Tillis, Terry Ann, is stepping down on the Republican side. Mm-hmm. Tom Tillis was the architect of voter suppression in North Carolina. Tom Tillis blocked 2 Black women from serving on the federal bench who were appointed by President Barack Obama. He should have never been elected, and he was, because too many Black folks stayed at home.
Right. There's no way for me to answer that question and to have an informed answer without me talking about my organization, Common Power. Every single state that you just mentioned, we mobilize people in. And we don't just go to the place and hope that an independent or Republican is going to vote. We go into the districts that are largely Black and brown. We go to the places often where Black people are already registered as Democrats, or we can register people, and we make sure to get them and encourage them to go and vote. We tell them where their polling places are, and we do this with volunteers. Now, we do it with volunteers across difference. Everybody is welcome to come in here, but it is an understanding that in this organization, we are going to reach out to the economically marginalized communities. We're going to go and land in those communities that are largely African-American in Milwaukee or in Houston or other places that we go, because we have to go and make that contact with individuals. We have to let people know and talk to them at the door about issues that matter to them. And when we talk about meeting people where they are, meeting them at their door, educating them. That's the work that I try to do as a former professor of African American history, is using the past to educate people and understand what it has cost for us to gain this right and what it will cost if we don't use this right.
Absolutely. Folks, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back. Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. We're going to talk about a poll out of Virginia that goes to show, and I've been saying, when you get power, Democrats, this is how you use it. We'll talk about that, some other news on this. Plus, we got Black Star Network headlines with Brittany Noble. Don't forget, support the work that we do by joining our Bring the Funk fan club. Your resources allow us to be able to do the shows that we're doing. Folks, we got some amazing things. We launched a daily noon show with Brittany Noble on Monday. Tomorrow, we're launching our weekly health show, Second Opinion with Dr. Ebony Hilton. And so a lot of stuff is happening here. And so your support is critical to us being able to bring you more news and information that we send our African Americans. You want to contribute via Cash App, use the Stripe QR code. You see it right here on the screen. Also, of course, you can use, again, the Stripe QR code for Cash App. So let's show that. Thank you very much. Click the Cash App Pay button to contribute. You can also use that QR code for credit cards as well. Checks in money order, make it payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered, P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 2003 7-0196. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. We'll be right back.
Hey y'all, welcome to The Other Side of Change, only on the Black Star Network and hosted by myself, Bria Baker, and my good sis, Jamira Burley. We are just two millennial women tackling everything at the intersection of politics, gender, and pop culture.
And we don't just settle for commentary. This is about solution-driven dialogue to get us to the world as it could be and not just as it is.
Watch us on the Black Star Network, so tune in to The Other Side of Change.
Violent white supremacy is, quote, the most persistent and lethal threat in the homeland.
The greatest terrorist threat to the homeland is the homegrown violence stream, including hate crime committed on behalf of some kind of white supremacist ideology.
They are coming after everything in Black America. MAGA and Donald Trump are specifically targeting Black America. They are going after the money. Attack Black Lives Matter. Attack critical race theory. Attack woke, DEI. MAGA wants to defund Black America. This is a perfect example of their desire to completely degrade and de-emphasize Black people.
What's up? It's your girl, Tamika D. Mallory, and you are watching the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate Black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys. This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all. All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart. Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
They said the quiet part out loud. Black votes are a threat, so they erased them.
After the Supreme Court gutted the Voting Rights Act in 2013, Republican legislatures moved fast. New voter ID laws, polling place shutdowns, purges of black voters from the rolls. Trump's Justice Department didn't stop it, they joined in. In 2018, his DOJ backed Ohio's voter purge system, a scheme that disproportionately erased black voters. Their goal, erase black votes and political power. Yeah, that happened. These are the kinds of stories that we cover every day on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Subscribe on YouTube and download the Black Star Network app. Support fact-based independent journalism that centers African Americans and the issues that matter to our community.
Folks, earlier today, Donald Trump and Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey got into a war of words on social media and Twitter and Truth Social over the ongoing immigration crackdown in the city. Trump posted this. Surprisingly, Mayor Jacob Frey just stated that Minneapolis does not and will not enforce federal immigration laws. This is after having had a very good conversation with him. Could somebody in his inner sanctum please explain that this statement is a very serious violation of the law and that he is playing with fire? Well, Frey responded, the job of our police is to keep people safe, not enforce fair immigration laws. I want them preventing homicides, not hunting down a working dad who contributes to MPLS and is from Ecuador. It's similar to the policy your guy Rudy had in New York City. Everyone should feel safe calling 911. Now, folks, it's an ongoing battle between Donald Trump and local authorities. Joining us right now to talk about all of this, of course, with out of Hazelcrest, Illinois. Glad to have you here. Chief Mitchell, you there?
Brother Martin, yes, sir.
All right, so let's talk about this because, listen, local police are being put in a very difficult position. And what I've seen and heard, far too many local police are angry with how they are being mistreated by federal law enforcement authorities. And when they came into Chicago, there were suburban police chiefs who were frankly pissed off with how they were just blowing them off and treating them like subservient children.
Yeah, Roland, first of all, our local law enforcement agencies, we work hand in hand with our federal partners on a daily basis. But what's going on now is just at a whole nother level. What's happening is they're coming into our communities and they're eroding the trust that we've worked so hard to build in our communities. And they're dropping bombs and then they're leaving us to clean up the mess. Now, you know, you hear them talking about, oh, we're coming in to get the violent offenders out of the community, to make the community safer. There is not a police chief in America that if they came to Hazelcrest and said, hey, I got these 5 people who are violent offenders that are living in your community, would you work with us to go pick these folks up? I can't think of any chief that would not work with them in order to make that happen. But when you come in, you don't ask for any assistance, and we know our communities. You know, so if you're truly trying to partner, we know our communities. We can tell you how they're working and how to best go about getting those folks that you're looking to get, if in fact that's what you're truly trying to do. And that doesn't happen.
Well, when you also come in, the goal is to communicate and not to, frankly, abuse and not leave messes and then just drive away. And now the local police are standing there like what the hell just happened? And in many cases, you've got residents calling local police on ICE because of a lot of their actions.
It's sad, Roland, because regular police officers, normal police officers, no community is going to allow you to be masked without any identification to come in and just run rogue through your community, driving up on folks. You know what? I was telling somebody the other day that they're the new jump out boys, you know, but they're coming in groups and they're jumping out. They got no identification. And as a matter of fact, there have been some cases where people have actually impersonated those officers, those agents, because they don't have identification. It's just so easy to do, but they just wreak havoc in our communities. And once again, it's hard enough for law enforcement to develop these relationships. And our communities are just being devastated. And as you mentioned, we're left to clean up the mess.
On that particular point right there, you don't know who the hell they are. So you don't know if they're real, if they're legit. And so if you're a resident, your natural reaction is, hey man, show me some ID. Give me a name, show me something. And they're like, no, what the hell? I don't care. And that's a problem. And so if I'm on the other side, I'm not opening my damn door. And they're just walking up, knocking out windows and just busting folks' windows up. And then some people, when they show that actually they are a legal citizen, they'll just drop them off wherever to figure out how to get back to their car or their house.
Yeah, absolutely. This is the ultimate abuse of authority. And that's what's gotten police officers and the profession itself into trouble historically, is the abuse of authority, using it for purposes that it's not intended for. And that's exactly, talk about history repeating itself. That's exactly what's going on now. Our national president made a statement some time ago. Our national president, Renee Hall for Noble, mentioned that, years ago, it used to be people with white hoods coming in our communities and just swiping people off the street. Now it's people coming in with masks, with no identification, snatching people off the street.
Not only that, there's this one particular ICE agent. This video has been going viral. I'm gonna play this here, which is unbelievable. Where this guy, this is the threat he actually made against somebody who was recording him, and I'm just sitting here going, this is beyond illogical.
This, brother. What? I will tell you this. You raise your voice, I raise your voice.
If I raise my voice, you'll erase my...
Exactly, yeah. Yeah.
Are you serious? You said if I raise my voice, you'll erase my voice?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm excited.
If you raise your voice, I will erase your voice. Really?
That's unchecked power. Once again, abuse of power when there are no consequences, and you don't have to, at the highest level of the country, you have the people that are responsible for the entire country, not just the municipality, that are allowing these things to happen with no repercussions. And when that happens, there are individuals who will abuse that power. And that's exactly what's going on right now.
Going to go to my panel. Terry Ann, your question for Chief Davis.
First of all, Chief Davis, thank you for standing up, because I think what we find now is that there are police chiefs, police others, Chief O'Hara in Minneapolis, who is now saying, hey, look, ICE is actually attacking my Black and brown police officers simply by racial profiling. So I think those voices are very important in the community right now, particularly given the history of the relationship between law enforcement and communities of color, particularly Black communities. So my question to you would be, what is your suggestion to everyday individuals as to what we can do to support local efforts to thwart the efforts of ICE?
I would just say, don't fall for the okie doke. I guess that's the most plain way I can. And what do I mean by that? These systems are being put in place to provoke our communities and to cause things to happen that will allow them, I won't say legally, but that will at least give them what they believe is legal grounds to escalate what they're doing. See, this is what we told you. We told you this is how they just don't know. They're lawless. They don't know what to do. So we want you to exercise your First Amendment rights to protest. We are absolutely behind it, but we don't want you out there getting hurt. We don't want you we don't want you out there doing things that are going to allow them to bring in the National Guard. That's what they're trying to do. So please just don't fall for it. And when you see your local law enforcement out there, because what happens is, talking about, Roland mentioned that we get drawn into things sometimes. In spite of the fact that we might not be in agreement with what ICE agents are doing, if they are getting attacked, often we can't just stand by and allow them to be attacked and don't get involved. Now, does that mean that we're going to be knocking people over the heads and things like that, like the ICE agents are doing? Absolutely not. But we have to try to quell what's going on. So, please just understand that local law enforcement agencies are stuck in the middle, literally stuck in the middle of this process. And when you see them, please try to work with them so that we can work with you to try to make things better.
Yolanda.
So I just want to make sure I heard what I just heard. Did I hear you say, and let me preface it, what I heard that ICE agent say is that he will kill you if you speak up. That's what he said, right? And that's a crime. It's official oppression. And depending on how close in proximity he is to the person he says it to, then you can arrest him. But I think I heard you say that they're trying to provoke us, which actually I think they're terrorizing us and they're trying to intimidate us and scare us, is what I believe that they're trying to do. But you said that now you can't stand around and allow us to attack the police. You have to do something. My question is, what will you do if you see them attacking us? Are you going to help us like you would help them?
Absolutely. In the state of Illinois, it is actually against the law for another law enforcement person to stand by and not interject themselves into what they know to be unjust use of force. It is law here in the state of Illinois. So it is our responsibility that if we see somebody doing something that they absolutely should not be doing, absolutely, if they're in the village of Hazelcrest, we will intervene to protect our citizens. What I saw in Minnesota, you hear the narrative that, and once again, I wasn't there, but I'm talking about what was actually said, is that there was a person that came to, inflict maximum damage and came with a weapon. Well, let me explain something to you. Law enforcement people, real law enforcement people, if we believe that we don't even have to see it. If we believe that someone has a weapon, we're not going to be walking up to them trying to pepper spray them and wrestle them to the ground, which tells me that either they were trained wrong or that guy was not the threat that is as though is being portrayed. But the fact that they're pushing women down and pepper spraying them and hitting them over the head with the pepper spray canister, if we observe that, we're going to intervene. We're going to protect our citizens.
Before I go to Cody, this is what Philadelphia DA Larry Krasner said about these ICE officers.
This is a small bunch of wannabe Nazis. That's what they are. In a country of 350 million, we outnumber them. If we have to hunt you down the way they hunted down Nazis for decades, we will find your identities. We will find you. We will achieve justice.
Cody, your question.
First, let me just say that I appreciate public officials like Larry Krasner for speaking out and saying saying the quiet part out loud that we are looking for a lot of our local officials to actually say. But Chief Davis, I have a question about how the police is actually trying to protect the people in Minneapolis and in St. Paul. I have a friend who is a reporter in that area, and she speaks about how a lot of people are just scared to be outside. People are scared to go about their daily lives. People are canceling appointments. People are just going home and maybe going to work if they are required to be in office. So what are the local officials telling the people of not just Minneapolis, because this is also spilling over into St. Paul and just the Twin City metro area? What are you all telling them in order to be safe day to day?
So I really don't have an answer specifically of what they're telling them. But one of the things that you have to keep in mind in Minneapolis is that the chief and all the officials there are doing the best they can to hold the line. But you got to understand that Minneapolis Police Department only has a few hundred police officers. If I'm not mistaken, there are 3,000 ICE agents there. So there's no possible way that they could go around and be everywhere that they would like to be to try to protect their citizens. So once again, I don't know exactly what they're telling them, but as far as the citizens and keeping themselves safe, it's crazy. It is crazy. And we've just got to be diligent. We've got to be diligent. We've got to support one another. Just think if those citizens, God forbid, that they weren't out there filming the way that they were filming the other day when the gentleman was assassinated on the street. If those cameras weren't out there, we'd have to go by is the narrative, because they're not wearing body cams. They're not doing those. And even if they were, they're not going to release that stuff. So we've just got to be vigilant and diligent in what we do and looking after ourselves.
All right, then, Chief Davis, we surely appreciate it. Thanks a bunch. Thank you very much.
All right, 06, appreciate you.
All right, thanks a bunch. All right, folks, we're going to stay in Minneapolis. Last night, pretty scary situation. Congressman Ilhan Omar was actually speaking at a town hall when a man who was sitting in the audience came up and doused her with some apple vinegar. This is how the scene played out.
Can't hear. Audio's gone.
We're going to reset this here.
Secretary Kristi Noem must resign or face impeachment. I don't know.
Oh my God, he's
I need a napkin. I need a napkin to know nothing. No, we won't.
No. You need to go and check. No,
we will continue. These fucking assholes are not going to get.
Now, this is the case where the police actually, well, security actually saved saved him from her, because she was ready to swing on him when it was all over. This also was captured here, where Congresswoman Omar said, "Listen, I dealt with war. I ain't worried about this dude here." Okay, watch this.
Representative Omar, are you okay?
You know, I'm gonna go figure if I am, but I feel okay. I feel that it is important for people, whether they are in elected office or not, to allow these people to intimidate us, to make us not fight for our constituents and for the country we love. And as I said, you know, I've survived war. And I'm definitely going to survive intimidation and whatever these people think they can throw at me, because I'm built that way.
Cody, that sister ain't backing down.
No, she's not. I love to see a fighter. I love to see that she was ready to clap back and throw some hands if she had to. But I just want to say I'm glad to see that she's doing okay, and that she wasn't harmed in this incident. But I don't think that in this moment that we can undermine the culture that Donald Trump has invited all across the country. People wanting to incite violence on people who consider other people to be their adversaries simply for just not agreeing with them. And so it seems that that is the case with this young man. I know that they've pulled up his history of having a troubled past, and this seems to be kind of on par for who he is. But I think that we can't undermine the work that our government officials are doing and essentially putting their lives at risk when they go out and about continuing to talk out against Donald Trump. This is what they are potentially facing.
It's no shock, Terry Ann, that when they pulled the social media of this man, it was filled with him following a whole bunch of crazy MAGA people.
Absolutely. And before I respond to that, I just want to make one note and call out a truth from our last segment. I just want to make a note of how inherently difficult it is for people in our community, for Black people, to exist now in a world where ICE is the attack, but we are somehow having to think about or look to the police for protection, when historically that has been such a problem. It is the Minneapolis, St. Paul area police officers, after all, who lynched George Floyd. And so I want to recognize the really precarious and challenging position that Black people find themselves in now on the streets. So in terms of the representative, or in terms of Omar, what I saw was every woman in my family reacting in that same way. What I saw was how I was raised. because of the circumstances in which we exist and having to be in a poised position to be on the defensive. And I think I watched the video 20 times because I had such a pride in myself to see that she was not going to back down and saying that I am going to continue this conference. Is it a surprise when we learn about the social media, the background, the MAGA? No. What has been engendered by the Trump administration, and I'm not just going to say Trump because it's not just him. He didn't make America what it was. America has brought him onto this level, and now some more people, I think, are waking up, is that it has caused an increase in hate crimes. We saw this in the last Trump term, and we're seeing this now, so that people who had kind of a latent racism, a latent issue with people of color, they feel empowered now. And they are able to exist with a sense of impunity, because when we see acts of violence on the street, what does the administration do? They dismiss it. They place the onus on the victim rather than on their agents of terror.
Yolanda?
So this is what happened in 2008. White folks woke up and a black man was president when he took office in 2009, and they have lost their ever-loving minds. That is how it has been. It's the first thing that I will observe. And what they did when he ran in 2016 was finally elected somebody who thought like them, who would allow them to be openly racist and especially openly anti-black. With Representative Omar, first of all, it would have been self-defense. This is a criminal defense lawyer in me. It would have been self-defense, and if she would have swung on him, for sure. But my question is, if she had her own private security, how was he able to get that close? I mean, had he not had whatever it is, he had a syringe or a bottle with apple cider vinegar, it could have been much worse. So I'm thankful that it wasn't much worse. But she's nicer than I am, because if he came to me, I'd have been on him like stink on shit, right?
Yeah, we know.
I'm from Third Ward, and so my point is,
we know
that they've got to do a better job of protecting people who speak out against Trump, because clearly his followers are sycophants and they have no problem with killing you, right? Because people are making this like it's like they literally want to erase us, literally and figuratively. So she needs better security, because he should have never been able to get that close.
Yeah, I mean, understand. I mean, this right here, this is the sort of stuff that Donald Trump was saying about her just hours before this attack on her.
Come in. They have to show that they can love our country. They have to be proud. Not like Ilhan Omar. Did you see that wise guy? You know, she's always talking about the Constitution, you know, provides me with the following. You know, the Constitution, she comes from a country that's a disaster. So probably it's considered, I think, it's not even a country. Okay, it barely has a government. I don't think it does. They go to one thing, pirates. But they don't do that anymore. You know why? Because they get the same treatment from us as the drug dealers get. Boom, boom, boom. Jesus. I don't care what ship they're attacking. When they attack, when we say them going in, ping, that's the end of it.
Cam is a nasty, despicable human being. That's who he is. And the right, they love to applaud that. Yet let a Democratic president say some stuff along those lines, and Fox News will be up in arms all day, every day. I'm going to go to a break. We come back. I want to talk. We're going to have headlines with Brittany Noble. Also, I want to talk about what Virginia Democrats have already done in like 2 weeks. They have not messed around when it came to moving legislation. We're going to discuss that next right here. Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
If in this country right now, you have people get up in the morning and the only thing they can think about is how many people they can hurt, and they got the power, that's the time for mourning.
For better or worse, what makes America special, it's that legal system that's supposed to protect minorities from the tyranny of the majority.
We are at a point of a moral emergency. We must raise a voice of outrage. We must raise a voice of compassion. And we must raise a voice of unity.
We are not in a crisis of party versus party. We are in a crisis of civilization, a human rights crisis, and a crisis of democracy itself. And guess what? You've been chosen to make sure that those that would destroy, those that would hate, don't have the final say, and they don't ultimately win.
I'm Risa Colbert, and you're watching the Black Star Network.
All right, folks, it's time for the Black Star Network headlines with Brittany Noble.
U.S. Customs and Border Protection says that the two immigration agents who shot 37-year-old ICU nurse in Minneapolis have both been placed on administrative leave. It comes as the Trump administration grapples with backlash over its handling of the deadly shooting. The agents were placed on leave Saturday, the same day as the shooting. The agency says in a statement describing the action as standard protocol. But on Sunday, Border Patrol commander says that the agents were still in the field, but were reassigned outside Minneapolis. The revelation comes amid fallout over the killing of Alex Preddy, which has sparked friction in the Republican Party and calls for Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem to be fired and raise the threat of a partial government shutdown. A man has been charged after he lunges at Minnesota Democratic Representative Ilhan Omar during a town hall and tries to spray her with an unknown substance. The 55-year-old Anthony Kazmierczak was booked in a Hennepin County jail on suspicion of assault, but has yet to be formally charged. According to witnesses, the man walked down the middle of the room and tried to spray a liquid, yelling, "You must resign." The man was quickly removed from the venue so that Omar could continue her message. Omar, who has faced a barrage of near daily attacks from President Trump, has called for ICE to be abolished and that DHS Secretary Kristi Noem resign or face impeachment. Well, Amazon is laying off 1,600 employees as AI and the battle intensifies. It marks the second round of mass layoffs at the company since October. The company says it plans to eliminate about 1,600 corporate jobs. It's stemming from an ongoing effort to strengthen the organization by reducing layers, increasing ownership, and removing bureaucracy. That coincides with a push to invest heavily in artificial intelligence. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett introduces transparency requirements for aircraft carriers to know Immigration Conduct and Enforcement Act, or the Track ICE Act. Reports show that ICE has been abusing Federal Aviation Administration privacy programs, such as FAA's Limiting Aircraft Data Display program, all to avoid disclosing their flight operations. The Track ICE Act requires comprehensive data to be released within 72 hours of any immigration enforcement flights, prohibits aircraft operators from hiding their tracking data while on federal missions, and it requires disclosure of the condition and restraints used on detained individuals. Well, Hampton University could soon regain its land grant status, positioning the historically Black college to restore federal funding it lost more than a century ago. Virginia Senator Mamie Locke has introduced Senate Bill 274. It will return the designation to Hampton University. The university originally held the land grant status from 1872 until 1920, when the federal government removed it under the belief that only one Black institution per state could hold the designation, leaving only Virginia State University. Well, the Hampton president, Darrell Williams, told lawmakers the restriction is outdated and inconsistent with land grant systems in other states, noting that Alabama has multiple land grant universities. If restored, the designation could expand access to federal funding for agriculture, engineering, and applied sciences, while opening new opportunities for STEM workforce training, research, and laboratory development. And Latrice Watkins is making history in corporate America. She's been named the new president and CEO of Sam's Club, the warehouse giant owned by Walmart. Watkins' rise is decades in the making. She started at a Walmart in 1997 as intern in the real estate division and worked her way up, leading major areas, including merchandising for snacks, beverages, beauty, and store operations. Then in 2023, she became Walmart's chief merchant, overseeing decisions for roughly $500 billion worth of products sold annually. And just 3 years later, she's now stepping into the top role at Sam's Club, a clear signal that her vision and leadership delivered results. Her appointment takes effect February 1st. For Watkins, the journey is deeply personal. She shared that growing up in a town with a Walmart helped spark her love for retail long before she knew it would become her career. Now she's leading one of the largest retail brands in the country, showing what's possible when preparation meets opportunity. Roland.
All right, we appreciate that. Hey, folks, don't forget to check out every day at noon, The Breakdown with Brittany Noble, right here at 12 p.m. Eastern on the Black Star Network. You can get caught up on headlines, exclusive interviews. And so, again, want you to check that out, bookmark that. And so, again, every single day on the Black Star Network, our new noon daily show, The Breakdown with Brittany Noble. Also, folks, tomorrow, we're going to debut a new health show. Y'all remember during COVID, we had Dr. Ebony Hilton from South Carolina on. She was always giving us great advice and counsel. Well, tomorrow we kick off a weekly health show right here. It's called Second Opinion with Dr. Ebony Jade Hilton. Premieres tomorrow. We're going to premiere at 11 a.m. Eastern before Brittany's show, and then we're going to restream it at 8 p.m. Eastern right after my show. And so I've been telling y'all, this is what we were working on. We were working on these two new shows. And then, for in 2026, to expand what we're doing. Of course, this show is every single day. Then you have, of course, Balanced Living with Reverend Jackie Hood Martin, the Black Table with Greg Carr. Yes, new episodes are coming. Greg said, trust me, he's working on it. New episodes are coming. We have that. We have The Other Side of Change with Bria Baker, Jameer Burley. And then, of course, we have this new daily show with Brittany Noble. And we have this new weekly health show focusing on our issues with Dr. Ebony Hilton. Second Opinion, Dr. Ebony Jade Hilton. Trust me, y'all do not want to miss it. It's going to be a fantastic show. And so that's what we're doing. So lots of things are happening here. All right, y'all, let's talk about a lot of things happening in Virginia. Look, just recently, they, of course, inaugurated Virginia's first female governor, Abigail Spanberger. And she, of course, has a Democratic General Assembly. Well, guess what? Things have been moving very quickly. Christopher Newport University dropped a new poll asking Virginians how they feel about the current state of the Commonwealth, the country, and possible amendments to the state constitution. The survey included 807 respondents from across the state, 46% of whom are optimistic about the direction of the state is heading in, while 10% reported mixed feelings. 35% say they're not happy where the state is headed. Now, some of the results. The redistricting referendum that Democrats are trying to push through and put on the ballot for a vote in April, 51% supported, 43% oppose it. Now, more than 60% support the current state of the congressional delegation. But again, a slim majority say they want to see Virginia go to 10 Democrats, 1 Republican. Reproductive rights, enshrining that in the state constitution, 67% support, 28% oppose. Voting rights restoration for formerly incarcerated folks, that is also going to go on the ballot. 64% support, 30% opposed. And, well, clearly Virginia does not like Donald Trump. 62% disapprove, 34% approve. But going back to the reproductive rights amendment, the felony voter enfranchisement, as well as the redistricting. This is what happens when you get power and you use it. Now, Democrats get a slim majority in the Virginia Senate, but they're using it. Mm-hmm. And this should be a lesson to Democrats if they ever get control on the federal level, the White House, and the Senate. We see what Republicans have done in red states when they control the governor's mansion, the House, and the Senate. They ram through their agenda. That's the same thing that Democrats have to do. Democrats can't be weak in using power. Jelana, I'm going to go to you first. This has been one of my biggest criticisms, and this is one reason why people sit out elections, Democrat, oh, well, no, that's a little difficult. That's going to be hard. We're not quite sure. As opposed to, no, you have the power. You wield the damn power.
Well, you know, I feel like that, right? I mean, I felt like that with the corn break, us not recognizing our power. So I will say this, Democrats, the second we control all three houses, we need to shove stuff through. Everybody always wants us to work with people and never demand that they work with us. And they have shown us, the Republicans, that they don't work with us and they want to annihilate us and they want to oppress us. And even when we're struggling, they want to put their heels on our throats. So the second we get power, we need to shove through everything Democratic. And I think that was one of the failings of President Obama. He thought that people would work across the aisle with him. And what I don't think he recognized was that they thought he black, and he black Samoan. Every time he votes, anytime he tries to do anything, we're going to vote against it, even if it's against our own interests. And so Democrats, as I said in an earlier segment, we need to make sure that we do to them what they've done to us. It's that simple.
The only problem there, Terry Ann, is this. Republicans are right and far right. They don't stay in line. What did Democrats have to deal with? They had that ratchet ass Kristen Sinema and that pathetic ass Joe Manchin blocking things. And I'm gonna tell you right now, Democrats have a narrow pathway to winning the Senate in November. If they defend Georgia, win North Carolina, win Maine, win Iowa, Alaska, then they'll have 51 seats. You know what the problem is? John Fetterman. That's all. Listen, even when Obama was there, what was the problem with Democrats? Joe Lieberman.
Right.
That's always been a problem. So Democrats, that's always the problem. You got some damn Democrat who acts more like a Republican and stands in the way. Oh, no. I mean, Manchin, no, I believe in bipartisanship. What we got to do. Him and Sinema blocked a lot of stuff that could have gotten done because, frankly, they were two assholes.
We have to pay attention to how they are voting right now. So Perez here in the state of Washington, who voted to put through, along with 6 other Democrats, so 7 entirely, who voted to put through a bill that would continue to fund ICE. We have to understand what that means and what they are willing to do and not do. One of them is reverse course and actually apologized after the murder of Alex Preddy and said, I should not have voted like that.
That was Congressman Tom Suozzi of Long Island. He apologized because he got his ass lit up.
Right. And that's my point. Holding them accountable is the way that we can, number one, make sure that many of them will vote in a particular way. But number two, we have to pay attention to not put those in office who on some things are voting in a way that we find to be very much aligned with Republicans. So our job does not stop once we cast our vote. We have to be as loud as the opposition in holding them accountable in the ways that they vote. To the lady's point, the representative's point, once we get in power, we need to push through those policies. And we have worked across the aisle and tried to do so and take the higher road. And yes, in many instances it's commendable, but we're going to die in the process. The policies that are being put in place by Republicans are quite literally destroying people's lives. We have to change course. This is why I have so much admiration for Representative Crockett, Representative Omar, those who are courageous and speak out and say, this is the path that we have to follow. We're going to go down that path. So our job does not stop once we cast that vote. We have to continue to hold people accountable.
Cody?
So with partisan gerrymandering, it cuts both ways. Democrats can argue that they're responding to Republican power plays nationwide, and they're bending constitutional rules to gain an electoral edge they're trying to gain electoral edge. But my concern is, because I'm all about Democrats playing the same game as Republicans. I personally love it. But my only concern to that is that it's going to deepen voter cynicism. I feel like those Democrats who maybe tend to be a little more to the middle or tend to flip-flop between parties when they go to the polls, is they're going to remember things like this. And I just sometimes am concerned about what is that going to mean when we are having an election like the midterms that are coming up in a few months.
Oh, no, Cody. No. I feel you, but guess what? Those same Democrats, when they are in the majority, they may say, we've got to have bipartisanship. We got to get, no, damn that. Anybody knows when you are in the majority, it feels a whole lot better than when your ass is stuck in the minority. Right, Yolanda?
You sure right. And let me be clear. I'm so sick of people making decisions based on how the world should be. You need to make decisions on how the world is. And we can see, even Stevie Wonder, Ray Charles, and Helen Keller can see that the establishment, the Republicans do not value Black lives or anything else, Black opportunity or anything like that. And so the middle of the road people, man, pick a side. At this moment in time, you need to pick a side. And it's either you're on the side of right, which is not killing us, or you're on the side of wrong. So I'm not worried about the ones in the middle. I'm not worried about them. They're the ones that are going to get us killed. Pick a side. History is dictating that we pick a side.
Yeah, pick a side. And also, this is the thing that I keep saying. There's no politician who owns a seat. This is why they're primaries. If there are folk who ain't acting right, guess what? Run against their ass and beat them in the primary. That to me is what I think should happen. All right, y'all. I saw this video here, and I just love really smart folk who know how to, as the late Joe Madison would say, you got to put it where the ghost can get it. One of those folks is Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. So in a recent health subcommittee, this hearing took place, the hearing subcommittee on energy and commerce, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez really just laid out in front of these insurance executives when she just tore apart the CEO of CVS, how she just broke David Joyner down when it came to their captive strategy of steering patients within their system, their ecosystem, where they control everything. This was brilliant questioning. Watch.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman, and apologies if we have to move quickly here due to the time. Thank you to all of our witnesses for coming here today. Mr. Joyner, you are the CEO of CVS Health, correct?
Correct.
And I actually don't know how many Americans know this, but CVS Health owns Aetna, the health insurance company, correct?
Correct.
And CVS, which owns Aetna, also owns Oak Street Health Medical Clinics, correct?
Yes, it does.
And in addition to that, they own, of course, CVS Pharmacies, and CVS Health also owns CVS Caremark, the pharmacy benefit manager, which helps negotiate some of these rebates and prescription prices, correct?
That's correct.
And CVS Caremark processes nearly 30% of all prescriptions in a given year. And so, in other words, CVS Caremark helps determine the prices that patients pay for a third of all prescriptions in the US. In fact, I was following one of CVS's investor calls where they really laid out quite clearly what this means if you are a patient. This is what's known as a captive strategy. And CVS, in the investor call, used the example themselves of a patient known as Kate. Kate has an Aetna health insurance plan right here, and which is owned by CVS Health. She then goes to a CVS pharmacy. She's connected to an Oak Street Health medical clinic. She sees a doctor at Oak Street Health who prescribes her medication. And then she goes to fill that prescription at a CVS pharmacy. So the price Kate pays for that medication is dictated by Aetna, CVS Caremark, and they also own the drug manufacturer Cordavis. Mr. Joyner, this is quite a bit of market concentration. Wouldn't you agree?
No, I wouldn't agree that it's market concentration. I would suggest it's a model that works really well for the consumer.
Yeah, I think it works very well for CVS. I think, in fact, you all said on the call that you all call it a fully engaged member. It's great marketing there. Fully engaged member unlocks sizable value for payers and CVS Health. So the health insurance gets a cut, the pharmacy benefit manager gets a cut, the drug manufacturer gets a cut, and the patient gets screwed. I think the Federal Trade Commission has also found that healthcare conglomerates like CVS Health charge more for medications filled at their pharmacies. We're talking about 1,000% markups on medications for cancer and HIV. And, I think this is actually an interesting point of common ground that I may have with some of our Republican colleagues here in this hearing. Because whether you're a blue-blooded capitalist or a card-carrying democratic socialist, I think corporate monopolies are a problem. And this vertical integration is destroying people's ability to access care. I don't think we're seeing this across the board. And if they can self-deal, I saw something that was interesting from the opening statement of Mr. Hemsley from United Health talking about how much United spends, what was it, 85% on care, Mr. Hemsley? Approaching 90%. But the ACA forces you all to spend a decent amount of that on subsidies on care. But when you own the care, when the insurer owns the pharmacy, owns the PBM, owns the drug manufacturer, you also own the healthcare cost. You own a big chunk of the healthcare cost. And so, 100 years ago, we had this type of market concentration in our banks. And we did something about it when it crashed the economy. And we passed the Glass-Steagall Act. We should be considering that in our healthcare system. And if we believe in competition, I think we should put our votes and our legislation in alignment with that and consider breaking up this industry in order to allow the competition that prevents this kind of vertical integration and abuse of power. And with that, I yield back.
I remember being in Brussels and they were shaking.
Woo! That's how you light that ass up. And that's how you break this stuff down. Cody, a lot of people, it amazes me when I see these people, they go, these I see these hearings and these things serve no purpose. Well, the reality is when you're in the minority, listen, the hearings are there for you to actually question folks, to shine a light on what's going on. And I've covered, we've covered a lot of these different hearings, and it's stuff that needs to come out. Well, you can't, if you say, well, how are we going to get it out? Where else are you going to do it? Everything is not going to be done with news coverage. So these hearings serve an important purpose to be able to question and challenge corporate leaders and political leaders as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And there's no secret that insurance companies, pharmaceutical companies, they're all finding ways to monopolize the healthcare industry. And CVS obviously seems to be no different. But I want to remind people that just last year, a few months ago, several drug companies made deals with the Trump administration to lower prices. And this month, in the month of January, when prices usually jump up, several of those companies increased their prices anyway, despite the deal that they made with the Trump administration. So one, that really shouldn't be a surprise, but it's time for Congress to enact against these corporations. There are monopoly laws in place, but there have been regulations that have put in place to weaken those laws. And we also know that some of our federal government officials, their campaigns have been funded by some of these corporations. And so I like to think that I'm well read and I know some of the things that are going on. And my question sometimes when I see some of these things that are happening that are not fair to the American people, such as capitalist greed or corporation greed that we know that has skyrocketed over the last few years, especially since the 2020 pandemic, what can be done at this point? And maybe Roland, you can answer that question for me, because I'm just like, we have these public hearings, like you mentioned. What's next? How are these people going to be held accountable so that they're not essentially scamming the American people?
Well, to your particular point, this was an NPR story right here from a couple of weeks ago, and This drug price research firm called 46 Brooklyn reported that drug companies, including the 16 that made deals, raised the prices of 872 brand name drugs in the first 2 weeks of 2026. Listen, the only way this thing happens is through politics. A lot of people. This is where, Terry Ann, we're always on this show trying to explain to people you have to connect the dots. Well, I cannot stand. And I'm really trying not to curse. So, I've been doing well. I'm trying not to cuss. But it drives me up the damn wall when people go, oh, man, politics has no impact on my life. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? It has an impact on your life. The reality is, whoever sits in the White House, also Congress, can have an impact on drug prices.
Right.
The problem that we have is, and this is just a reality, you've got more Democrats than Republicans who want to do something about pharmaceutical prices, but you also got some Democrats who are bought and paid for by the pharmaceutical industry. Lobbying is fierce, and that's what you have going on. But people have to recognize Congress, federal level, state houses, politicians have a role to play on drug prices, on all sorts of things. This is why we can't sit elections out, not one.
Everything is political. From the water that we drink, to the schools that our children go to the air that we breathe, to the places that we live and are not able to live, every single thing is political. And this is yet another aspect of that. I, like Cody, consider myself extraordinarily well-read. And yet I did not know about what was happening and this kind of vertical integration that CVS had. Historically, vertical integration has never been very promising nor useful for the consumer. And in many instances, it has actually been quite harmful. And we're seeing that again. And so the way that we do something about that is you showing what AOC did. Is AOC doing what she did? Is exposing exactly what's happening. And she did it in a way that was very relatable to people, even in many instances mocking the way that they're advertising this. And she's right that the Glass-Steagall Act needs to apply to this. We have these acts that are designed to stop the conglomeration of power, to stop these antitrust measures, and it needs to be applied to the healthcare industry. To your point, Roland, there are so many politicians who are in the pocket of the healthcare industry that it renders that effort even more challenging. However, it is through public pressure that we get change. And so the more that we can speak about this, and shows like yours expose this, and AOC exposes it, it becomes part of the political agenda of those running for office, and then becomes a new paradigm of expectation that they do something about it once they're in office.
This shows you right here. Pfizer raised the prices on 72 drugs. Genentech 29, GSK 29, Amgen 21, Merck 18, AbbVie 17, Johnson & Johnson 15, AstraZeneca 13, Eli Lilly 12, Gilead Sciences 11, Sanofi 10, Bristol Myers Squibb 9, EMD Serrano 7, Novo Nordisk 8, Boehringer Ingelheim 2, Novartis 1. But we need to know the information. And to that point there, listen, Jolanda, you ain't gonna get this stuff on. First of all, ain't no national show. I don't care whether it's broadcast, ABC, NBC, CVS. I don't care whether it's a cable network. They're not gonna play all 5 minutes what Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez have to say. You might see a snippet if you see it at all. This is also why independent media, Black-owned media matters, because our folks have to understand this and know this. And Black folks really got to know this, because when you look at who's the sickest and who's on a lot of this medication, it's us.
Right. And so, Roland, I sit on the Public Health Committee. So, of course, I had not seen what Rep. Ocasio-Cortez said. I hadn't seen that until you showed it. But we have the same issues in Texas. And let me be clear. Those pharmaceutical companies have tons of money, and they line the pockets of many of my colleagues. And so you have to look where people are getting their money from. As they say, follow the money. And I thought she was brilliant, and how I can't remember the lady's name, was Susie or Sarah, whatever the woman's name is, how she had to connect the dots exactly like you said and explain to people why this affects you. But nobody wants to watch our committee hearings. And I can also tell you that when I'm doing the same thing in the State House, bringing up this kind of thing where they're, putting all the costs on us and we're actually getting worse health, and especially as it relates to Black people, people don't have time or don't make time to listen to what we're saying.
Yep.
They just don't. And so I always tell people, don't listen to what we say on our social media. A lot of times, or we say we fought for you. Go listen to how we vote, and go listen to what we're saying in committee meetings. Go see if we try to stop a bad bill in committee, and then see if we try to fight it. And that's what you have to pay attention to. And so that's why I think people should join. And I do that actually on my social media. I actually tell people, I try to show clips. But at the end of the day, this stuff is not simple, Roland. It is complex. And I thought she did a masterful job of pulling their panties down nationally in 5 minutes, because that's hard to do. And she also asked him leading questions where the right answer was, yeah, we doing this. She didn't give him the opportunity to explain anything. It seems like she maybe could be a trial lawyer. So, guys, pay attention. Just pay attention to what we do when we're legislating. Don't just pay attention to what we say during election time.
Well, here was one of the things that she said when she first got elected. She said, when you don't spend all your time on the phone raising money from donors, then you have time to do the research and prepare for hearings like that. And that's one of the things that AOC said before. Hey, y'all, this is the last story. I gotta give y'all this one. The South Florida Village Council, it got real crazy, erupted in controversy after a local official used a racial slur twice during a public discussion on law enforcement and community relations. El Portal Village Council member Anders Urbaum, who oversees several divisions, including law enforcement, public safety, and public works, also traffic, facing intense backlash after using a racial slur while recounting a story about policing and race during a public council meeting. He used the slurs in an attempt to make a broader point about how people talk about race. Vice Mayor Darian Martin, who is Black, directly confronted Urbaum during the meeting, stating that as a white man, he should not use that language in any context, calling the remarks grossly offensive. Comments of the now viral video say Martin missed the point. Let's see for ourselves.
I'm going to explain to you exactly why every white person in this country who voted for Trump is a racist piece of shit. I'm going to tell you that right now. How do you wink at a nigger? How do you wink at a nigger?
Oh my God, please stop.
All right, motherfuckers. I learned that from a 10-year-old son of a police detective in my hometown growing up. His father, a police detective, his best friend, another fucking police detective. All right? My entire existence growing up, yeah, walk away. Walk away. Do it. Walk away. We're coming. Everyone's in the streets. All right? I never heard either one of these detectives say anything other than the N-word when they were talking about black people. Not once. Not once ever. Now, if you think that's a vile joke that I just told you, I already told you guys in meetings in the past, I got 50 fucking more. I learned them all by the time I was 10. Guys, yo, fuck ICE. If you don't wake the fuck up to what is happening right now, you don't deserve this country. Get the fuck out. Get the fuck out. Fuck ICE and fuck CPB. You guys better pay attention to what the fuck is happening. I don't know what's wrong with all you privileged assholes who sit on your ass and don't get out in the streets and protest this shit.
Thank you very much, Councilperson.
It's over. It's over. You better get in the fucking streets.
I do understand that you're trying to make a point, but even in trying to make a point, I do think it is a grossly offensive word to be mentioned in any context.
And it needs to be put in white people's faces that this is what's happening.
But I'm not a white person, and it's being put in my face, and I find it offensive. So I'll personalize it for you, that even though I understand that you're trying to make a statement, I actually don't understand it, but it appears as though you're trying to make a statement. And in addition to that, I share some of those feelings about what is going on in the greater world. I do say that as a white man, you should not be saying the N-word in any context, and I take great offense to it. And I think that you owe us an apology.
I will certainly apologize. I mean no offense to anyone other than white Christians who voted for Trump.
Okay, so as I was watching that and listening to the sister say you shouldn't use it in any context, I remember what took place in the 2020 election. I remember when Republicans, these MAGA folks, and even some of these FBA other people like Joe Biden called us the N-word in a congressional hearing. I was like, do you get the context? And so I think this is what actually happened in a Senate hearing, and this is why context actually does matter. All right, y'all, let me turn this audio on right here. All right, I'm gonna play this. It's 56 seconds, and then go to the panel. All right, then.
Clearly indicates that there was intent. The court found the plan with unerring precision slices through the city's traditional subunit, the ward, in a racially selective manner, leaving intact predominantly white wards while carving up those densely populated by blacks. As to the governor, the court concludes, quote, the governor's opposition to the Nunes plan was predicated in significant part on his delineation of a majority black district centered in Orleans Parish. In a confidential portions of your staff memo, they brought to your attention the allegation that important legislators in defeating the Nunes plan in the basement said, quote, we already have a nigger mayor and we don't need any more nigger big shots. And the court cited evidence of discriminatory intent on the part of other legislators, including the representative who testified at the court hearing, that there were legislators, quote, who don't feel they wanted to have a district that would be able to elect.
All right, so the Florida councilman said that. So I'll start with you, Cody. Your thoughts on what he said. I mean, when I saw it, he clearly was saying what he was told as a 10-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, your thoughts.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And typically in almost all scenarios, let me be clear, in almost all scenarios, I am against anybody that is not black in saying the N-word. However, we are always asking white people to step up and call out their white counterparts. And that is exactly what Councilman Anders did here. I don't know about y'all, but I don't usually see that. So I actually appreciate him telling his story about the things that he was taught as a young boy, calling out white supremacy, denouncing the things that he was taught, and calling out MAGA for supporting ICE. And Vice Mayor Martin, the black woman that is also the local official in that in El Portal, I believe is the name of the city, she responded by saying that she didn't appreciate him using that word, which is her prerogative. And again, in most cases, I would agree with her. But I think in that moment, her dissent took away from the impact that was in that room in that moment with him telling that story. And now the story has become about him using the N-word. The story has become about what do other people in that city and other people in that and who works as a public official in that local government, what do they think about him using the N-word? We're not even talking about the story anymore. We're not even talking about what Councilman Anders was actually talking about. And so although, like I said, typically in any other scenario, I would be completely against any person that is not black saying the N-word. I appreciate him using his platform and denouncing white supremacy and telling white people that they need to get their stuff together and realize what's going on outside because they could be next. They could be next.
Terry Ann, let me be clear. I don't want black folks to use it. I despise the word. I don't use the word. So I don't want to hear black folks using it. So I'm not going to give us a pass on it. I don't want to hear shit about the ER versus the A. It's all the same to me. But that's how I feel about it. Your thoughts on this story?
Same thing. My kids are never allowed to say it. I don't want to hear it. My husband and I feel exactly the same way. And I've taught, African-American history for almost 25 years. And I'm a historian of Black history. And so I've come across that word. I write about it. I have a book on lynching. It's in everything that I do. And yet I prohibit anybody in my classroom, or I lead groups of teachers. I'm about to jump on a call with them now. I prohibit anyone from saying it out loud, even if they are recounting a story. I agree with you, Cody, that the message was then lost because he actually had some really profound things to say as an ally and was calling people to task. But that is not the story now because he spoke that. And so by saying the word instead of saying the N word, which is if I'm reading a document out loud, a primary source document that includes that, or recounting a story, because Lord knows growing up outside of the city of Chicago, I was called that a lot in my lifetime, but I still don't use the word. I say the N word. And I think that needs to be some of the practice that happens in this country. And, you know, I even take this into hip hop music. When I was young and listening to hip hop, people didn't say it. But now these record producers and the way that it is every other word in songs has from a largely white owned record producing company that is encouraging in many instances, and not to take the onus off of the rappers who are doing it. It has created this culture that seems to be more okay to say. And I want to go back to a time where nobody says it. Nobody at all says it.
Yolanda.
There's never been a time where nobody says it. And I really struggle with people who want to make things pretty when they're ugly, right? People who want to put lipstick on a pig is still a pig. When I was in high school, they called me a nigga. That's my teammates. Okay? So me saying the N-word, for some reason, that doesn't have the shock effect that it needs to shake people to their core to figure out that something is wrong. And it's just not right. And I actually commend him for telling people exactly what grown white people were teaching him as a kid. And then maybe that explains to people that these kids have been indoctrinated since they were kids. And they have been taught to say nigger. So, and I think that recounting stories like that, or recounting stories of at my high school, our freshman fundraiser was a slave sale. Okay, a slave sale. I was bought with one of my classmates because she happened to be with me for $5. We were bought for the least amount. And so what am I supposed to say? Oh, they just sort of had a slave sale and they didn't know. Make it nice? No, it's horrible. And we need to deal with what is, not how we want it to be. And there are so many people who want to live in Pollyanna worlds, and this is not a Pollyanna world. This is a cruel, ruthless world. And in order to be able to fight our opponents, we have to know who in the hell they are. And somebody who says the N-word is not as vicious as somebody who says nigger. I'm just saying. And so no, in a perfect world, we shouldn't be saying the word. But at the end of, and also using the N-word to rap is totally different than what this councilman was. And he shouldn't be asked to resign. He was trying to explain to people how indoctrinated white people are. And that is what we have to deal with. And I respectfully disagree with my Black sister. I'm actually thankful that he told us how he grew up.
I'm going to say one thing. You do not have to use that word in order to get across to people how horrific the history is or how horrific our current moment is. I deal with it. I teach it. I exist in it. My family exists in it. But it does not require the use of that word for people to understand the gravity of racism in this country. So I respectfully disagree with you in saying that we don't have to speak that word out loud. We don't have to take the word of our oppressors historically and speak it out loud for people to wake up and understand how bad things are in this world right now. We don't have to.
I respectfully disagree.
All right. Well, I'm gonna respectfully end the show, but I will agree. I will close this out agreeing with Cody on this. That the problem is the response to what he said. The conversation became about the response and not who he was challenging, and that to me is the mistake because he was challenging white folks to wake up and stand up. Right. Let me thank Cody, Terry Ann, and Jelana for joining me on today's show. I certainly appreciate it. Thank you so very much. Hey, folks, don't forget to check out tomorrow, noon Eastern, the breakdown with Brittany Noble right here on the Black Star Network. She's live every single day, noon Eastern, giving you the latest news and views. This is our new daily noon show. Launched it on Monday, and tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern, we kick off the first episode of Second Opinion with Dr. Ebony Jade Hilton. This is our show focusing on Black health. We got some amazing discussions on Black maternal health, the flu, and also why it's important if you're 50 and years older, that you need to be lifting weights when you're working out so you can build muscle mass for your bones. So it's a great show. Trust me, y'all going to learn so much, and we're so happy to be launching this right here on the Black Star Network. Folks, listen, I already told you before we launched these shows, our monthly expenses were about $195,000. This is for all of the networks, for our studios, for everything that we do, bringing you the news and issues. And listen, we ain't got millionaires, billionaires cutting us checks, and your support has been crucial since we launched 7.5 years ago. So if you want to contribute to the Black Star Network, this is what our ask is. If 20,000 people on average give $50, it raises $1 million. That is huge to defray our costs. There are people who can't give 50. I understand that. We've had people give us 40, 25, 10, $5, $1. People have given us 100, 500, 1,000, even more. We appreciate every single contribution. Nearly 37,000 people have contributed since we launched this show 7 years ago, since we launched this network 4 years ago. So if you want to get your name, every Friday we run the list of our donors. That video used to be about 30 seconds. Now it's about 6.5 minutes. We shrunk the names and sped it up to get as many as possible. So we're going to get your name on that list. Please contribute via Cash App using the Stripe QR code. You see it right here on the screen. You can use that for credit cards as well. Also, checks and money order. Make it payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered. That's what the bank account is set up as, because this was the first show. P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 2037-0196. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo RM Unfiltered. Zelle Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. All y'all watching on YouTube, y'all should be hitting that doggone like button. We should have way more likes than we have right now. So y'all are slacking. Y'all over there commenting and running your mouths. Let's hit that doggone like button so we can increase our numbers. Let's see where we at, man. We got 1,200 likes. It was more than 3,000 of y'all over there. So hit that doggone like button before I get done. Folks, download the Black Star Network app. Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Samsung Smart TV. Also, of course, if you want to get our Roland Martin Unfiltered Black Star Network swag, please go to shopblackstarnetwork.com. Shopblackstarnetwork.com. Get our t-shirt. Don't blame me. I voted for a black woman. Get our get all of our stuff. Also, you want to support these black-owned products. Also, go to that. We got lots of black-owned products on our site. Symphony chips. We've got truthing cards. We've got candles. We've got all sorts of stuff. You name it. You're going to be buying gifts for birthdays and anniversaries and all that sort of good stuff. You utilize our marketplace, shopblackstarnetwork.com. When you support black-owned businesses, you support this black-owned businesses and the work that we do. Also, fan bases hit their $17 million Series A crowdfund raise. So be sure to download the app. A lot of new features, and a lot of new features are coming down the pipeline. And so we want to support this black-owned social media app as well. All right, folks, that's it. I'm going to see y'all tomorrow right here. Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Don't forget, 11 a.m., Second Opinion with Dr. Ebony Hilton. Noon, Brittany Noble's The Breakdown of Brittany Noble. Folks, I'll see y'all tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern, right here, Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Holla!